Welcome back. Welcome back. It's good to have take a break from time to time, but now we're gonna jump back into a very important topic, something that we're probably thinking about peripherally in your day-to-day work, or whether you're looking for work now. You might be in a situation where you're in the middle of figuring out, is AI going to take my job? If not now, when, or if at all? So with us today is Mark. Mark is going to be giving us a presentation on adapting to AI, what the future holds for young professionals in hospitality. So without further ado, we're going to put his presentation on screen and I'll get out of your hair.
All right. So, hello everyone. My name is Marc Massland. Today we're going to be talking about adapting to AI and what the future holds for young professionals in hospitality. Like I said, my name is Marc Massland. I am currently 23 years old. I've completed my bachelor in hospitality business management. I'm currently doing my master's in leading hospitality transformation while working part-time as an F&B consultant. On top of my master's studies and my part-time studies, or my part-time job, I'm also doing an online education in no-code AI and machine learning and building data science solutions. I wasn't always into technology as I am today. But then the question is, who am I really? Well, at the age of 21, so about 2 to 3 years ago, when AI was just being introduced to the world through ChatGPT, I asked myself one single question that was very important. When I'm my parents' age, what skills am I learning or can I learn now that will still be relevant? So I'm born in 2001 and my dad is currently 57. So the year that to the answer to that question, when I'm my parents' age, is the year 2056. The year 2056, in my mind, looks drastically different from the world that we live in today. No longer are we using smartphones like we are here, but instead we will maybe be using smart glasses like Project Orion, showed off by Mark Zuckerberg. Maybe we aren't working in teams of 5 to 6 people, and instead are working with a team of 1 or 2 individuals and maybe 5 or 6 AI agents that are doing these tasks that were traditionally done by these larger teams. For some, this may seem like a dream come true, but for some, this might be a nightmare. I was also looking at how my industry was being transformed. In 2056, what now is normal that we will be served by humans on a daily basis when we go to a restaurant, maybe in the future will all be done by robotics. Something in my industry, what we talk about is that in the future, being served by a human, it will be considered a luxury. This question of what skills can I learn and what can I do in this age of AI became a drastic sort of discussion in my head at this period of time. There were 2 fundamental business truths that kept running in my head and that I'm sure that you think about as well in this period, right? And those fundamental truths are that businesses aim to reduce cost and increase revenue. And for every investment made, there has to be an ROI. If we look at that second principle at first, what we see is that companies like Google and Meta have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into AI projects. These companies will have to see an ROI, and that means that AI is not necessarily just a fad, but is here to stay. And going back to that first principle, businesses aim to reduce cost and increase revenue. We all know that organizations have a responsibility to their shareholders. And the best way to increase revenue is to reduce costs. In the hospitality industry, can we guess what is the single largest cost? Us people, right? The employees in these organizations. So if these business truths are true, then it should mean for us as for an organization that reducing the full-time employees or FTEs is one of the goals that the business may have, even in an industry like hospitality where the human connection between you and me is very important. The business truth is that reducing those costs and increasing those revenues is actually triumphs that principle. So at age 21, in an industry that employs millions of people around the globe, I had to ask myself, what does that mean for my job security in the age of AI? That's a very difficult question to ask yourself at 21 years old, but it was one that I had nonetheless. The easy thing to do would have been to ignore it, like many of my colleagues in my classes. I mean, I was in my second year of my bachelor. I could have gone down to the university bar and had a couple drinks and maybe forget about it. But I knew, and while I was thinking about this problem, and I gave it a bit of time, I knew that if I took action, I would ensure personal growth. If I took action on making myself a player in this age. There was one more question in my head, which was, is my concern even justified? Okay, we have the business truths and we have these different aspects, but am I just overblowing it? Well, if we look at the study done by the World Economic Forum in 2023, we can see that they reported in 2022 that 34% of jobs were being done by machines compared to humans. They predicted in 2027 that number would jump to 43%. So that is in 5 years' time, right? A 9% percentage growth in the jobs being done by machines. Remember that first question I asked, when I'm my parents' age, so that would be the year 2056. That is a lot more years than 5 years, right? How does that percentage change? And especially when we talk about AI being on this exponential curve, and we're only at the very beginning of that exponential curve, what percentage or ratio between machines and humans are there in the employee workforce? Theory is nice, right? Predictions are nice, but I also did projects, right? And I wanted to relate it to what does my personal experience tell me? For my bachelor graduating thesis, I did a project for a consultancy firm in Dubai. And like many consultancy firms, they do one-on-one conversations. They take notes during that conversations. Then they may write a report and they put it into a presentation and present that to their client. What I was able to do with my, remember, non-technical background, a hospitality student, I was able to create an automation that in one click was able to create a transcription, create the report, and the presentation. Once I had handed in this sort of thesis paper, I thought to myself, what have I now actually created? Well, in essence, what I did is I removed 3 potential jobs from the market, right? There was no longer a need for a transcriber. There was no longer a need for an executive assistant or another consultant or a junior consultant to sort of put the report together. And there was also no longer the need for a graphic designer who would make that final presentation. In my current work as an F&B consultant, I work in a team of 5 people. We serve countless of companies. But the amount of companies that we serve would never be possible if not through using AI for tedious tasks and time-consuming activities. So in both instances, in my personal experience over the last about year and a half, AI has removed potential jobs out of the market. I want to go a little bit further. Let's zoom in on entry-level jobs, right? And look at what the description of entry-level jobs are. Well, the general sort of description or the roles and responsibilities that an entry-level jobs will have is to complete specific and well-defined tasks, or to support senior team members. And they often require, general skills and knowledge rather than really specialized expertise. And they engage in sort of daily activities that follow established procedures. I'm sure if you think about your first job that this description quite well reflects that. But if we now take a look at what type of tasks are the most suitable for automations, we see a sort of a growing concern from my perspective as a young professional, right? Tasks suitable for automations are activities that follow a clear set of rules or restrictions, where another responsibilities may be to extract information from emails or generating summaries, or completing processes where workflows are consistent and they rarely change. Now, if we would look at the overlap between entry-level jobs and the tasks suitable for automations, we see that the entry-level jobs are the ones that are the most suitable to be replaced by automations. I want to go on to a point here and to talk about internships for a second. Internships, they are fantastic, right? In many ways, they allow for young people like myself to build experience, but they also have a negative side or a con. In my perspective, and what I've seen as a young professional in the market, is that I see a lot of these potential entry-level jobs being replaced by interns. Gen Z, my generation, has a quite high turnover rate. But if you can hire an intern instead, for in the Netherlands, a competitive rate for an intern for a full month of work is 500 euros compared to an average salary of an entry-level person, and both of them require trainings. And both of them require trainings, and the turnover rate is not much the difference if the intern stays for 6 to 8 months, right? We see that a company follows that sort of fundamental business truth, which is if they can decrease cost and increase revenues, they will do that. So internships aren't the only thing that are happening, right? But what I wanted to look at here is try to present what is happening to these entry-level jobs. If we look at the total entry-level jobs that are available in the market, and we subtract the jobs that are suitable or will be replaced by automations, and of course we need to give students still opportunities, so we're also taking the internships away about them. And you can see here in the design of the presentation, in the graphs, I also have robotics and a preference for digital experience and self-service. And we divide all of that under the 2 laws of business. We can see that there is truly a concern for the future of entry-level jobs. And if we look at that example in my industry, right, the hospitality industry, we also are already starting to see this. A hotel operates like the perfect business. That's how I've always seen it, right? There's your operational staff, there's your management, and there's your customer-facing sales representatives. Well, if we look at those customer-facing roles, such as a front agent or a front desk staff, traditionally most 5-star hotels would have had 5 or 6 people standing at the front office. But if we look at companies like Citizen M and many other companies, they're starting to implement these self-service kiosks, where already only 1 person is needed, and no longer is there a need for 5 or 6 people to be there to help check in. But it is not only the front office roles that are, or the front customer-facing roles that are at risk, also the back of house roles that were often, considered quite experienced roles, or where you would have done a hospitality education to land one of these roles, such as revenue managers or sales managers and events coordinators. Those roles are also being replaced by companies like InHotel.io, who's creating AI agents that are specifically trained for these tasks. And of course, in hospitality, it's all about service, right? It's all about dealing with people, and the ones that really do that are the employees who are serving our guests. But even looking for in the future, and already now, we can see that robotics is taking even those roles and shrinking that market even further. The threats are clear. So what can we do as young professionals? I don't only want to talk today about doom and gloom. That is not the point. I also want to give you some advice in the sense, what can young professionals do, or any professional for that matter, to get ready? And the answer is clear. We must adapt. And I put the Nike logo there because I think it's fitting. You just have to do it. But if we want to change, we have to understand how we should change. So let's first understand what the market is looking for. Well, the World Economic Forum, again in that same report, outlines some of the fastest growing jobs. The number 1 is AI and machine learning specialist. The second is sustainability specialist. And at the bottom, there's digital transformation specialist. So now we understand and have a clue of what the market is looking for. What skills do we need? Well, the top 2 skills are analytical thinking and creative thinking. The way we approach a problem, right? That is how we can stand out. Even when it comes to AI, how we instruct that AI is the outcome of the result. Some of the interesting other points are curiosity and lifelong learning. In an age where development and change happens as quick as you can bat an eye, it is important that we continue to learn as we go along. No longer is it that what I learn at university or high school will be applicable for the next 30 or 40 years. We're in a period of rapid change, and therefore you have to continue to be curious and learn about the new tools to be able to adapt to that new situation. Another interesting point here is the social skills, the empathy and active listening, the leadership, and so being able to have social influence, right? The social skills, the interpersonal skills are just as important as your technology skills and your business skills. This may all seem like a lot, right? And it becomes very hard in this AI age to understand where I should go. What should I aim for in this age? If my job is already at risk, then what should I do? How can I do anything? Well, Deloitte puts together this infographic, and I think for me this was a transformational infographic to see. On the right side, or maybe your left, we see the blue person. This is someone who is sort of an expert in business and communication, right? They have very keen abilities in storytelling and understand the business and have domain knowledge about their topic. They have business acumen in the sense that they understand how technology should be used to help a business problem. And on the left side, or your right, you'll see the red person, right? So this is a technical person, a technology-based person who has technical skills and also data analytical skills. In an age of data, where data is the most important thing, and some people even say it's more valuable than oil, being able to understand data and translate it into a sort of business problem and understand the business perspective on that data is one of the most critical aspects. So the purple person you see in the middle is the blending of the two, right? Have your business knowledge. That is just as important as your technical knowledge. And you should aim to develop yourself to become this purple person so that you can play on both sides. This way, you make yourself invaluable for businesses because you understand the technical needs of the generations to come, and you also understand the business knowledge. So the big question is then, how can I get started? Well, I will reflect a little bit on my own personal journey, and I hope that inspires you. But I think some of these aspects are really, critical in just getting started and getting your feet wet. The first tool that I would recommend is to find what you're passionate about. Like I said, lifelong learning and curiosity is going to be really important in the next coming years. But it's very hard to be a lifelong learner if you're not passionate about what you do or where you're working towards. Ikigai is a fantastic tool that helps you map out what your passions are, what you like, what you can do professionally, and helps you to find where the business or where the mix is, and helps you to identify it. For me, right, it was to be part of building the future with something that I'm passionate about. I have some, business knowledge and skills in hospitality. So blending those two together became my focus, right, which was hospitality organizations with perspective of technology and AI and emerging technologies. Once you have kind of found out what you're passionate about and where you can also make a professional career, I always suggest map the resources available to you. The business model UCanvas, therefore, is a fantastic tool because it allows you to map your resources. What's your revenue? What are your costs? What are the assets that you have, right? And then this is supposed to be translated onto yourself. In a way, you are your own business and you have to take care of that. But no business can operate without having mapped its information or having a business plan. So that's why the business model U can help you understand what are the opportunities that are out there and ways that you can improve yourself, and maybe what are some ways that you need to work on to get to that next step. My next suggestion is to experiment with no-code solutions. For the ones that aren't aware, no-code is, in simple terms, is visual modules that are pre-programmed with text and coding. Like I said, I come from a hospitality background. I don't have a computer science background. I've never coded in my life, but yet I'm still in this modern day able to create AI workflows that are sophisticated and really have internal business value. And I'm only able to do that because of these no-code solutions. There's a famous talk from the CEO of NVIDIA where he says in the future, your kids don't have to learn coding and they can just use natural language. When he's talking about that, he talks about these sort of solutions, the no-coding solutions. Well, what kind of no-coding solutions are out there? Well, there's Zapier and Make, and that's a really fantastic way to start because it's automation in a very visual way. I always compare it to sort of like Lego bricks. You stack one brick on top of the other brick, and in this case, the brick is a certain module or a certain platform, and you can interconnect them very visually, connecting your CRM like HubSpot to an automated email, and all these different types of things are quite easy to set up and do yourself, but they have a lot of value for businesses, and they can make you also stand out if you're able to do them. If you're more on the data analytics side and wanting to understand how to do machine learning, right, which is a critical part of AI, we should look at platforms like Climb. Climb is free for everyone and it's open source. And again, it's one of these visual platforms where you have these existing sort of blocks that you can connect to each other. And then the last one is custom GPTs. I think a lot of people have experimented with them, but also a lot of people haven't. Every time I create one, people are always surprised and shocked. Custom GPTs are like ChatGPT in the sense, but they differ in the way that you can give them a sort of preset prompt. And they're really flexible, and you can do it in a way where you can have a natural conversation with the AI model and just talk to it about what you want, or you can put in your own prompt. But the power of custom GPTs and making these AI sort of workflows or AI solutions to a certain business case or project that you're doing is really incredibly powerful. And then the last part is apply what you learn at every chance you get. And what I mean with that is that it's great when you learn these tools or have some knowledge about these tools, but if we don't build up skills and experience with actually implementing it, then it's only a sort of fun thing that we know how to do. But when we can utilize school projects for students in the audience, right, to work and create a report and add an AI element to it. I did this recently for a project that I was working on, where we were describing the future of hospitality and over-tourism in 2035. Right? It was great. I had a presentation that kind of explained our vision, but part of our vision was about AI taking sort of a role in helping you find your sort of perfect holiday destination. Instead of just describing it, I created in 5 or 10 minutes a custom GPT that helped to visualize the problem, making it much more interactive. Another big point that I would like to make is to utilize university or school resources and opportunities. I got my start only with this technology because I looked around at my school. I did my business model U and I said, okay, I'm at a university where there's a lot of resources available. So I started a conversation and dialogue with some of my teachers and lecturers about my interests. And one of them had suggested to me, hey, you should reach out to this guy. He's just starting a VR and AR department at our school and doing some interesting research about hospitality and this new emerging technologies. I reached out to him and asked, hey, are you interested in a student assistant? And he said, yes, please, of course, any help that I can get is valuable. What I'm trying to tell you by telling you this story is that most of the time there are resources or opportunities out there that we just don't realize. But all it takes is understanding what I want to do and then asking somebody for it. And then as a last step, and one of my mentors pushed towards me, is also to look into online educations. We live in 2024, almost 2025. Many people in my generations have gone through, COVID when we are doing education online. In the past, from what I understood, online education was always quite stigmatized in the sense, oh, it's not a real university or it's not a real education. And then COVID happened, right? And everybody had to learn online. And now I see a different attitude towards it. So if you see that there's a sort of knowledge gap that you have or a skill that you would like to learn and that it's not possible to be done within your university, look at external opportunities like online educations programs by universities, or even look at YouTube videos, and they will help you and explain how you can move forward. Remember this, right? These are some of my key points. Do what you like, otherwise it's going to be very hard to be a lifelong learner. But I urge you to add a digital element to it. Also, don't forget that those your interpersonal skills are extremely valuable in the age of AI. Everybody can generate reports now with AI, and it's easy to do, right? But your capability to explain that report or explain that information and connect it with people and understand the people that are standing in front of you, or the decision makers, or whoever it may be, you have to be able to explain it and interact with them socially to make sense of that information. Model yourself after the purple person. Develop those business or whatever interest you have, develop those skills, become an expert or have domain knowledge, but add that digital element for that technical side, right? And that way you can model yourself around that purple person and ensure that you become, employable in the future and no longer have to worry about, do I have job security in the future? For the implementers, the business owners, and the policymakers in the audience, I urge you to consider not only the impact of implementing AI on your current stakeholders, but also to give thought to the stakeholders of the future. We have a responsibility when implementing AI to think not only of the immediate response, but also that we provide those opportunities that you may have had to the next generations to create career developments and sustainable growth. I would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to me and engaging with this conversation. I hope that you were able to get something away from this, and maybe even if you haven't already, taking your first step, use Ikigai or the business model you, and go forward and be part of changing the world in the age of AI. If you're interested in following my journey, as I'm very much at the beginning, but really trying to make something of it, feel free to scan the QR code and follow me on LinkedIn. I would like to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. That was excellent. Very well put together, very thorough. I just want to ask you, there are these predictions that you have in how the future is going to shape out. And I'm with you, right? There's so much investment going into these areas, a lot of research, a lot of people that are in frenzy with adoption. But where do you think are the gradual spaces where this is going to be infused? I mean, it's not going to be all at once, right? Tomorrow, we're not going to have robo butlers that levitate and get us cheeseburgers and do all these different things. So what do you think is that gradual transition period?
I think it's a really interesting question, right? I think most of us are familiar with the Gartner's hype cycle in the sense of where technologies kind of fall on this maturity curve. And when I look at the technology that is out there and what's happening, right, in the hospitality industry, I feel that these technologies are starting to really hit that maturity stage in the sense, even with robotics, right? I mean, we've seen the videos of Boston Dynamics over the years stumbling around, but my perspective is not the next 5 years, right? It's the next 30 years. And that was the beginning question that started my journey was, what does the year, like, what am I learning right now in 2024 that is going to be relevant in 2056? And I saw such a radical change driven by that, companies making those investments and having to get an ROI on those investments. So I think it's going to happen. And with the stuff that we're learning, right, and especially in the hospitality industry, it was for many years that IT and hospitality was sort of just sort of a nice to have, or we needed to have it, and there was always issues. But now it's being looked at as this sort of strategic importance within the organization. And I think, it's going to happen a lot faster than we realize, in the sense that companies are going to realize that they can reduce the full-time employees and have more AI automations, either through self-service kiosks, like you saw at Citizen M already, or by implementing a robot and gradually reducing the amount of people within the hospitality area. So I think that's the main concern when I have, and I think it's just going to integrate really quickly. But when you see it happening in hospitality, it should be already quite further in other industries, because hospitality is traditionally known to be quite slow to adopt technology in certain aspects. So the fact that we are already talking about it right now means that it's probably way further in some organizations.
Thank you, Mark. It's true. In a 30-year horizon, we're only going to see the technology get better, faster, cheaper, and the hardware as well. At some point, the cost of potentially having somebody full time can be offset to a part time if there is some machinery in play, and
Yeah.
machines don't get sick. So don't
Yeah.
wait 30 years to become the purple person.
Yeah, it's also, what I wanted to display in that sort of personal example of building those automations is that I think moving forward, it's not going to be only these AI specialists or very like Harvard or MIT guys that are going to be developing these projects in house. It's the power is in the hands of the people. I mean, I come from a non-technical background, and I was already able to create these AI automations and workflows, and eliminate those potential jobs or keep the team small instead of having to have 20 people to service 60, 70 customers in my consultancy. You see that potential is really already there, and it's just about, I think, businesses understanding it and starting to use it. And I think for people like me coming out of the university where we have that experience because we use AI in education for one or other reasons, that you're going to only see that snowball a lot faster now.
Thank you, Mark. We're going to take a brief break, and then we're going to be back in about 8 to 10 minutes. So we'll see you soon in the next presentation. Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope everyone who was listening enjoyed.